It'd be my privilege to recognize the longest-serving Secretary of State in American history, New Hampshire's Secretary of State, Bill Gardner. Secretary Gardner, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman. I look forward to the work we have ahead. After our federal Constitution was ratified, a person asked George Washington this question: what is the most important thing that a person can do for his country? And Washington answered that in 5 words: express your views beyond yourself. When I first became aware of that, I took it to mean everyone's voice mattered. Be willing to share your views, have dialogue with others, and let others share their views with you, for it will strengthen our country. It can also be applied to voting, where we collectively express our views beyond ourselves by way of the ballot box. And the more often we get to do that, the more we fulfill the will of our first president. I would like more Americans to vote, not fewer. For over a half-century since the civil rights era of the 60s, our federal government and the states have been trying to find more and more ways to make it easier to vote. But when states try to balance that ease of voting with measures to increase voting integrity, it is often met with hostile resistance and charges of suppression. I will respect the facts that this commission receives, but it has been my belief over many years of administering elections that we will see an increase in voter turnout only when ease of voting is balanced with security and integrity. Making voting easier by itself does not result in higher turnout, as we have seen in our recent elections. Polls conducted just before the last presidential election found over half the country believes there's voter fraud, and polls after the election show a declining level of confidence in the balloting. During this century, there have been 3 national election commissions previous to this one. They spent time continuing the quest for ways to make voting easier. In my opinion, we need to first understand why turnout has not increased as a result. One of the previous commissions recommended states adopt photo ID requirements for voting, and that commission was severely criticized for doing so. We also need to compare states that have voter ID laws with those without. I might add that the 2 highest states in turnout during the presidential primaries last year were both photo ID states. Why is it important for the public to have confidence in their elections? The reason is contrary to common belief. One vote does matter. I have conducted nearly 500 recounts, all done by hand, counting paper ballots in a public process, including statewide, congressional, and various smaller district races. 11 of those recounts have ended in a tie. 32 were decided by 1 vote, and a total of 202 by less than 10 votes. And while serving as a state representative back in the 1970s, my state had a U.S. Senate race that was decided by 2 votes. The U.S. Senate, after that, tried to do a recount of that race and gave up after trying for 5 months. I am a witness that every vote matters, and there doesn't need to be massive voter fraud to sway the outcome. These are the experiences I will bring to this commission, and I will work with all of you, endeavoring to let the facts we receive speak for themselves. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you for those words and for your long service to the people of your state.